Thank you to everyone that's joining our webinar today. I'm Helen Carroll, VP of Marketing, and joining me on today's call is Neill Collie, one of our technical Opsview experts. He's going to take you through Opsview Reporting and our Results Exporter module. There may be some screenshots that look slightly unfamiliar to you. That's because Neill is running the latest version of Opsview. We are recording today's webinar, and we'll share the recording with you after this webinar. So thank you for joining, and over to Neill.
Thank you, Helen, and thanks everyone for joining. Like Helen says, today we're going to be running through getting some information out of Opsview, so the Opsview Reporting module and our Opsview Results Exporter module. The Reporting module allows us to run reports against historical data that we store in one of our databases, and the Results Exporter helps us ship data out to other tools, making Opsview kind of a central point in your IT environment, and sending out results and performance data and service check data to analytic tools and monitoring tools, that kind of thing. A very brief recap for those of you who perhaps weren't on some of our other webinars. What we're talking about here is results and service check data for hosts. So a host is a container for our services, and a service is something that we are interested in, something that we care about. So CPU usage, service status, that kind of thing. Our plugins do all the hard work, and our hosts and services are organized into host and service groups. So we'll probably see a little bit of that as we view our exported results. We can then send host and service check data off to dashboards, and as we'll see, reports and external sources. So diving straight into reports, our reports module uses our ODW. So you'll hear me refer to ODW quite a lot over the next 20 minutes, and ODW is our Opsview data warehouse. And this is our data source. This is how we get information into a long-term data warehouse out of the real-time information you see in Opsview. A process called import runtime does this, and to configure it, we just go to configuration and then my system. And we'll see here we've got an ODW tab, and that's our ODW Opsview Data Warehouse tab. And I can decide to enable imports or disable imports, how long I want to keep them. So if I want 6 or 12 months worth of data, I mean, this is a monthly data, a monthly value here, and this too is a monthly value. So this is extended import. So extended import is is every single performance and plot point. So this includes summarized availability and summarized performance stats. So we'll get a summary of how available a particular host or service check was. This is every single raw plot point. And this can take a lot more space than our summarized data, of course. So this has a separate retention, a separate retention setting available here. You can have this set to indefinite if you would like, of course. You would require a little bit more space. So on my training system, on our relatively small training system, I keep that at 1 month, and I keep this at 6. But by default, this is 12 months. If you don't want all service check and all host check data, then you can disable and enable them right here. So as soon as I click one of these check buttons, I've got an option to choose which server and which data I want. Again, here it's the same for the service check data too. And what this does, once this is enabled and I've hit submit changes and I'm happy with my settings, this imports data into our ODW from our Opsview and runtime databases every 4 minutes. So it runs this cron task every 4 minutes past every single hour, and it converts our data from the real-time info you see here. So the real-time data we see on our normal navigator page, or that we make use of for Bsm and things like that. All of this normal service check data, this gets crunched through. I'll show you very briefly. this process here, so import runtime, and this will import data right up until the last hour. So this takes data from our Opsview databases, so from our UI, and adds it to our Opsview data warehouse, our long-term storage. And if we want to see that in action, so if we want to see what kind of data we're looking at, hopefully you guys can see my terminal okay. I've just signed into the MySQL instance that handles all this data, and I'm going to use my Opsview data warehouse. And here I can show you some of the tables and the kind of data that we're using. So I've got my summaries for various hosts, summaries for BSMs, and here we've got our performance checks, performance data, service checks. So it's our largest, longest running, our largest tables for our most in-depth data, and then this summarized data here. So if I do a quick, I think I've got this stored up. So see, the first entry I've got here is for the 1st of January, sorry, the 23rd of January this year. So that's my 6-month retention kicking in. And this is just an example. This is a summarized half hour, so we can see our 1800 seconds. So business host 30-minute summary. I've got the first 100 instances, and we can see that we store the BSM ID and how long it was available for. So it's this kind of data that we've got in our ODW. Then we've got things like full-on perf data. So I've got my raw performance data every 1 minute in this case as we pulled in that MySQL data. So our ODW stores all kinds of data, summarized and full. So depending on the type of query we're running, the type of report we want to run, we've got a lot of data in there. And just to give you an idea of the size of the table, if I scroll right to the top here, so you see our 3 biggest tables in my database. And my relatively small Opsview server here are my service check results and my performance data. And then I've got my hourly summary, which is quite large, but compared to these 2 big tables in inverted commas, then you can see not many other tables come really close. So these are our largest tables with the most data. Like it says here, we store narrower tables, so smaller tables with fewer columns to make it easier for querying. And this performance data is stored exactly as it's received. So like we showed there, that whatever we can see in the user interface, the performance data comes right in. So we can see and query long-term historical data. We can look for trends. We can look for capacity issues. We can see how our various hosts and services are doing, because all of this data can be stored and then queried. The hourly task to import this data, you don't necessarily have to run it every hour. You can change that if you want to. So it doesn't have to be at 4 minutes past the hour. It can be whenever you want it. So use a configurable setting. You can just change the cron task, the cron tab to run whenever you want. So it depends how often you intend on running reports. If you only run reports every month, you can probably get away with a less frequent import runtime process. So you can maybe run it every night at 3 AM, for example, and have that process run, and then it'll be ready when you want to run it at the end of the month. There's no like one answer is right here. You can have it run whenever you want, depending on how often you want to run this run these imports. So once we've got our data into our ODW, we may then want to start running a report. So the reporting module is an add-on to Opsview that, like it says here, it provides a UI and an interface and a mechanism with which to query all this data in the ODW. So I mean, you could run manual MySQL queries if you wanted, but a cleaner, nicer, happier way is to use the Opsview Reporting module add-on. We bundle many pre-designed, very useful reports, but it's easy and possible for you guys to develop your own. So as long as you understand MySQL, if you've got some MySQL expertise in-house, you can very easily whip up a query, add that to the XML that actually powers the report, And then you can run your own custom reports, and your friendly Opsview consultant, myself or any of the other team, will happily write you some queries as well if you need something that's not taken care of out of the box. We can run them whenever we want or on a schedule, and there's huge amounts of customization about where you send them and who gets them and what kind of debug and diagnostic info we can send out as well as we run the reports. There are two Opsview considerations when we are running these reports. So we need to give our users within Opsview the reports user and the reports admin roles, permissions, so that they can actually run and edit and delete the report. If they can't see that option, if they can't see the module or they can't see monitoring, and then if they can't see reports here, then it may just be that they don't have the permissions. So with all that being said, let's run a report and dive in and see what we can see here. So we've got some idea of what's in our ODW. We know that it's a combination of summary and full-on performance report tables. And a lot of our reports are going to be run and they're going to analyze our data based on hashtags. So we'll use hashtags to filter various things. So hashtags fundamental to reports. We can also run reports on Bsm availability. So if I wanted to check the availability of one of my Bsm services, so I know that my website hasn't been entirely online the last month because I have manually broken it a few times. So if I want to run a report and see just how available my website has been over the last 1 month, I can use Opsview Bsm functionality and Opsview Reports functionality to run a quick report and see exactly how available my website Bsm has been this last 30 days. So this is our detailed report. So you can see we've pulled, I guess we're going to end up with about 30 pages of data here. So this is our Bsm SLA report for our service website, starting 22nd of June, ending yesterday, and time period 24/7. So I can now start paging through, and I can see how available certain components of this Bsm group have been. So I can see that I've not quite reached my SLA for the Apache stack or my other stack I made for training course mid-July. I can see when it was down. If that stack was, or if those hosts were in downtime when they were offline, I would have a different view in this report here. So we can track whether or not the service or host or component was in scheduled downtime, and I know that can be important for certain SLAs. So as I flick through here, this is daily availability for every single component in a specific business service, and you can see that on the 30th of June, MySQL service didn't have a particularly good day. And they're exactly the same for each day as we go through the full month. So we've got a good amount of data here, and a handy report so we can see exactly how available our website or whatever service it is we're interested in was on a specific day. If I want to schedule that report, I can do just that. So I can right click, I can either run it right now or I can create a schedule for it. So many of you may want to schedule these reports to run every day, every hour, every month, whenever it may be. So I can just say simple recurrent, repeat every 30 days and have it run until the end of time. And we're going to start it tomorrow. And it's going to be the business service SLA detailed report. I'm going to set some parameters if I want, so I can select the correct or the service I'm interested in, the last month, give it a name, etc. Description can be whatever you need to be able to find it in the UI. I'm taking down my service level target percentage to be a bit more reasonable. Otherwise, I'm going to have my report failing every single time. Report end date, whatever I select here, it's going to be modified for each time I run it. So if I have a report end date of the 23rd of July, the next time it runs, it will be the 23rd of August. The next time it runs, it will be the time after that, 23rd of September, that kind of incremental setting. I just want to add system here, so we'll use the system time zone. And then very quickly, nothing particularly fancy in here. We've got a fair few output options, so I can send to CSVs or PDFs or an HTML or JSON or XLS type output. I can pick my language, of course, and I can decide where to save it. So I can save it in my ODW repository, so we can access it whenever we want, or I can drop it to the host file system, or I can send it to maybe an FTP server, and then I can also email that notification out to whoever I want, and I can include some debug info about this report, if it did or did not run. If it fails, I can have like a different set of email addresses, so I can maybe email an admin saying that these reports did not run tonight, please investigate. So pretty configurable. There's lots of options in here. You can get the right format, you can decide where to send it, and you can decide what range of data you want to report on, of course. I know lots of customers run these reports every night for checking availability of specific services, and then a more distributed schedule, so every month for overall service status levels. If we take a look at let's take a look at the monthly performance report, because I've scheduled that already. So this runs every month for me, but I'm going to run this right now. I'm going to run it on my MySQL hashtag. So for those of you who were on a couple of days ago or previously, you might have seen me use this MySQL stack hashtag a few times. This should show me some historical data for my MySQL, my 4 or 5 MySQL servers. Sorry. So you can see I've got 27 or so pages in here of useful data. So I've got performance summary overall for the whole month, and then we can dig in and we can see that I've got a month's worth of stats for every single metric I was tracking as part of that hashtag. So for each of my 5 MySQL servers, I've got connections, max user connections, and total threads running. And we can see that this is a summary. We had the summary at the start, and then we've got the actual raw data here for every single day plotted. And of course, if we want to, I can save this as a CSV. So I can drag this as a CSV, open up, and take a look at the actual raw data stored as a CSV. So then I can see exactly what data it is so exactly the number of max user connections or threads running or bytes received for each and every one of our servers for the last month. So this is storing our performance data, and these are the large tables I showed us at the start of the demo. So this is the large table. So this is performance data, and then we've got service checks, service check results, which are the largest 2 tables, and it's this that powers these performance reports. So all this extended data is what that extra space is used for. It's for generating these reports and this month's worth of comprehensive data. So if something like this would interest you, then it's that's why you would enable extended import for your services. And we've got lots and lots of monthly availability reports, daily availability reports. We can see a daily event report, so what happened on all my servers in a particular hashtag or host group for the last month. Monthly events report, same thing, but obviously for the full month. These are querying our summarized tables, so this should be a quicker report and would include a lot more. Will include all the events, so every single service change, but this has been summarized and this is stored in one of our smaller tables. So I've got a lot of info in here to query. So I've got all of our, this is our monthly events that have happened on any server in that MySQL stack. So I can see the kind of service check change, the kind of service check status. I can see on which server it happened, exactly what time, and full information. So this isn't performance data. This is the output from, let's see if I can make this clear. This is the output that you see here. This is status info. So it's not quite the same thing as perf data. But we can see that in our report. So if we run this every single month, we can get this data out and store it and analyze it and do whatever it is we need to do with it. Maybe get some kind of trending on why these MySQL servers are at capacity or failed, or if there's a correlation between timeouts or connection refused or running out of available connections, that kind of thing. There's a lot we can do with this kind of information if we take a look at trends over time and things like that. So all of this lives in your ODW, in your Opsview data warehouse, and it's all something we can grab by running a report or running a custom report. You can see here I made a custom report back in April, and this is a little bit beyond what we usually cover on these shorter courses. We do have a full reporting course in which I run through how to make a custom report. So if you're interested in this, got a full report course. It lasts a fun 3 hours on how to create a report. It does require a little bit of SQL knowledge or and a little bit of knowledge about modifying XML files, but it runs through how to create a custom report. So here I'm just running a very similar report to what I ran before, but using not hashtag, but host group. So we can see the various event information. We can see where I added, where I had my hosts in different host groups, and we can see the output as before. And it's a very similar report to what we just showed you with the hashtags, but this one, like I say, is based on host group there. Very possible to create and fairly easy to create a custom report, but like I say, you need to be able to come up with or visualize MySQL queries. Okay, I think that basically covers the report section. I think Helen mentioned at the start, if there are any queries, please add them to the chat and we'll cover them at the end. I'm now going to delve into the results exporter functionality, which is something we added for Opsview 6.2, tweaked it again in 6.3. It's a really powerful feature which allows us to take all of these results, so everything we see here, and using the message queue functionality on our, with our so all of these based on message queues, we've got a number of messages in each queue at a time. So using this new functionality, using our new architecture, we can take what's stored in each message queue and have it automatically distribute to one or more sources. So whatever comes in, we can ship out to various places. An incredibly powerful feature, really customizable, very filterable. Just depends on where you want your results to go. We can filter what we send, we can filter where we send it. So it's a very easy to use, I think toolkit is the best word for taking this raw data from Opsview and sending it wherever we need to send it. installation is relatively straightforward, but it's not installed by default. As part of an Opsview 6 installation, we won't install the Opsview Results Exporter. So if you want to, you will need to consult the docs. So up here on Results Exporter, we've got steps on how to install it. It really is just like an apt install or a yum install Opsview Results Exporter. And then we configure it using a standard YAML file, which I'll show you in just a moment. We can check it's running, or we should start it by looking for the result exporter process here. So our result exporter process is running, thankfully, amongst many Opsview processes. So our results exporter, let's see if I've got my config file here. So this is the config file we're going to use. And we can use it to send data to various places. So it's Opsview results exporter, etc results exporter YAML, and this is a hopefully readable version of this file for you guys. I want to point out that we've got three paths configured here and a custom endpoint, which I'll get onto in just a moment. So our results exporter is currently shipping results to 4 separate places using this config file. So it's sending it to results exported, Opsview only, and anonymous status info only. And the reason I've done this is just to illustrate how we can have different types of results and filtered results sent to different places. So this is sending a lot of results to results exported.log, and this is basically everything that comes in and out. I've taken a few fields away, but I've got the current state, the host name, the service check name, the standard out, which is the info that we see, so the MySQL OK or service down or that kind of output, and when it was last checked, and that's all being exported to Opsview results exported.log. And then as another example, we've got a filter applied here. So I've got my fields, but I've also got my filter. So my filter is hostname equals Opsview. So that's taking data, but only that data that applies to the hostname, a system with the hostname Opsview in my system. So I've called this Opsview only. And then here's another one. So I've filtered on current state. So I'm only interested in critical. And I'm not interested in the host name or the service check name or anything that might give the game away as to what system I'm looking at. So this is kind of like an anonymous status info. So we've got the current state, when it was last checked, and when it's been acknowledged. So I've got like an acknowledged field here. So three different types of output going to 3 different files. And we can see that if I go to this tab, hopefully they're still being output. So I can see that Opsview only is interested only in my systems where the host name is Opsview. And on this one here on the right, I've got all results as they come in. So this is every time we run a service check. So this was like 10 seconds ago. Every time we run a service check, the full output gets dumped to this file here. So this will get quite large, but we've got a lot of options as to what we can do with this file. So I'm just outputting to results exported.log every single service check as it comes in. So I can then do whatever I want with this file. This is just historical. This is just as an example, sorry. I can do whatever I want with this file. I can send it, I can analyze it, I can archive it, whatever I need. So this is a large file with every single service check as it comes in into Opsview. I just output that data. Over here, I filtered it, so I only see things that happen on my Opsview system. And then, like I said, on the other file, we've got anonymous status info. So if I take a look at this file, again, this will be different. So I can take a look at, and this shows us problems that have been acknowledged. So they were critical. So current state is 2. That's my status for critical, and I can see when they were started and stopped. And then perhaps most interestingly and most usefully, it's going to be this output here on the right hand side. So this is still in the output section, but instead of file, we've got HTTP. And I have sent this to a Moog instance provided by our friends and colleagues at Moogsoft. We can ship results to HTTPS endpoints like Moog and Splunk and any of these SIEM tools that can analyze your environment and see what's see if there's any trends or correlations. Any of these AI ops type tools we can send a lot of data to. So here I'm sending using hashed password. I'm sending it to this Moogsoft instance, and it's basically real time. If I hop to my open alerts, you can see all of these service checks coming in almost real time here on our system. So this was 1633. So this was just a minute or so ago, and it's just the same service checks, the exact same info we see in Opsview. It's the exact same data here. So we can see our tools can group things by destination or host, or see incidents and whatever. However you've got your aggregation tool configured, they can handle this info from Opsview. So we don't necessarily need to send it everything, but I am currently sending almost everything straight from Opsview to this Moog instance. Here it's ordered by severity, but I'm going to order by last event again so we can see as things come in. So we can see things are just coming in every couple of seconds. And here we've got a link that will take us right back to our Opsview instance, so I can see exactly what happened and what caused that outage. And then just link straight back, and I can see this view, and I can see what happened there. So this kind of integration, this kind of filtering, consolidation, it's hugely powerful. It's so much more than I can go into in a little 40-minute course. But to give you some idea of just how much config options and configurability we've got here, I want to point you at our field mapping section of this particular document. So this is our exporting results page, and we can see just how much we've got in the way of config options and just how powerful this tool is going to be for sending your information to either, like it says here, like a file, a local syslog server, if that's your preferred source, or sorry, preferred destination, or indeed an HTTPS source, their destination, such as Moog or Splunk or any of these type of tools. We've got the option to pick the field, so we can decide which of these fields we want to send, and then we can filter. So we've got a huge amount of filtering options. So we can filter on host name, status type, check time, check date, that kind of thing. And we can use anchors, we can use tags, we can filter on more than one criteria at a time, of course. Hugely customizable and very powerful. So we can get all this information out of Opsview. So everything we see in here, we can get out of Opsview in a number of ways. We can get it out to, like we see here, this third-party type tool via our reports. So we've got all this availability data via reports. So we can, oh, it's been left too long, forgive me, it's timed out. But yeah, we've got the availability via reports. We can export it as a PDF or a CSV or whatever we need to export it as. And then we can send it to third-party tools. And that really brings us to the end of my content. Thanks for listening. I wonder if we got any questions during that, Helen.
Hey Neil, thank you. That was really insightful. We've got one question, but if there are any more questions, please post them in the chat facility and we'll get to those shortly. This is a long one, so I'm going to read it all out. I think you've covered some of it, but just in case we've missed any of it.
Sure.
So for the reporting, have you any recommendations for a report report that can be run to give daily, weekly and monthly totals for the total number of servers on which service checks are being or have been run, with a further breakdown of this information by host group.
Oh, so that last little bit where you say further broken down by host group. So we'd have to modify the actual query that the report runs. So on your Opsview instance, on your Opsview server, you'll see the report. You'll see service checks by host, and then there's a monthly, weekly, and daily version of each report. We'll probably have to modify the query to run like another join to have it broken down by host group after that. So that would involve some manual tweaking of the query to run that report, but it's certainly possible. Certainly possible.
Okay, and I think the reason for asking is that they need to know so they can track endpoints for licensing purposes and be able to show the customers the billing costs split by host group.
Gotcha.
And then another part to that question is, does that vary the report between version 5 and version 6?
Oh, so we have upgraded the version of the software we use to run the reports, but the queries themselves wouldn't vary at all, and the actual output would vary minimally. So no, between 5 and 6, you can take a report from Opsview 5 and it will run on Opsview 6. That's fine. But yeah, you would have to modify the SQL first to get that to work. So it's a very custom report. If it's not something that you feel comfortable doing, then I'm quite sure one of the consultants here at Opsview, with a little bit of PS time, can fire up a query for you.
And then, Neil, how would they go about raising that? So they just raise a support ticket?
If you create a support ticket, then the support agent will direct you to probably your account manager and then through to PS time. So if you have an account manager, then contact them. If you don't, then fire off a support ticket and we'll work out the best way to go from that.
Okay, fabulous. I don't think we've got any more questions. So I think we can give everyone a few more minutes back. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining, much appreciated. Hope the session has been of use. Neil, thank you. Oh, hang on 1 minute, we have got another question coming in, Neil, right at the last minute. I know, he says no, thank you for the information. Okay, all good. Thank you everyone. We will be sending out the recorded version tomorrow. Have a good day and have a good evening. Cheers, bye-bye.
Thank you guys.